Right now, the night skies over the Middle East are lighting up with ballistic missiles and interceptors in a direct exchange of fire. This level of direct state-on-state warfare was mapped out long before the first launch. The strategic logic driving this escalation, the push to directly target the Iranian state, originated in a specific tactical blueprint. That blueprint is this document, a policy report titled Restoring Deterrence, Destabilizing the Iranian Regime, published in May 2024. It was released by the Henry Jackson Society, an English neoconservative think tank. Though based in London, the Society's research is a major driver of Western geopolitical and security policy. The author, Barak M. Siner, is a veteran researcher for the Society with a background in Gulf and Israeli security. His work focuses on a highly aggressive security posture designed to neutralize Tehran's regional influence. For decades, the West prioritized containing Iran through diplomacy and localized defense. This document argued for an end to that consensus, advocating instead for a proactive campaign to destabilize the Iranian government directly. Siner's failure of deterrence thesis argues that trying to avoid regional escalation has actually invited it. He claims that by limiting responses to small, proportional actions, Western powers have signaled a lack of resolve. The report criticizes what it calls atomized strategies, the practice of fighting isolated battles against individual proxy groups like Hamas or Hezbollah, while leaving the regime in Tehran untouched. The report holds current U.S. leadership responsible for this dynamic. It argues that clearing billions of dollars in frozen funds and granting sanctions waivers provided the direct financial resources needed to fuel regional instability. This map visualizes Iran's Ring of Fire strategy. Arming and coordinating militias across Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen, Tehran is tightening a circle around Israel with the goal of forcing American military assets out of the region. The Houthis in Yemen serve as a primary tool in this strategy. From their positions on the Red Sea, they have disrupted international shipping lanes, forcing Western navies to focus on defensive intercepts rather than the source of the threat. To the Henry Jackson Society, the current status quo is a self-defeating loop. Breaking it, they argue, requires moving past defensive interceptions toward direct military intervention. The blueprint demands a shift in focus, moving from isolated militia sites in Syria to the core survival of the Iranian state. Tactically, this begins at sea. The report recommends moving U.S. aircraft carriers out of the narrow Persian Gulf and into the open ocean. This maintains strike capability while protecting the ships from Iranian drones, mines, and anti-ship missiles. The domestic target list starts with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The plan calls for direct strikes on IRGC military bases and the targeting of senior commanders within Iranian territory. This diagram highlights Iran's oil infrastructure, refineries, pipelines, and export terminals. Crippling these nodes instantly collapses the regime's economic base. The final targets are the nuclear program. The blueprint calls for destroying uranium conversion and enrichment programs to end the threat of a nuclear-armed regime. The strategy relies on a single calculation, that the leadership in Tehran prioritizes regime survival above all else. Making that survival the primary target is the intended method for regaining the strategic initiative. The document places this conflict on a global scale. It links Tehran to a broader axis, including Russia and China, arguing that Iranian regional aggression is part of a wider effort to undermine the Western international order. Since 2020, the U.S. relied on the Abraham Accords to create a defensive shield through regional diplomacy. This report argues that diplomacy has failed to deter Iran, necessitating a transition to an offensive security architecture. The report also warns of a second crescent of Iranian influence, forming in Africa's Sahel region. By building ties in countries like Sudan and Niger, Tehran could potentially destabilize Egypt from its southern border. To counter this, the blueprint insists the U.S. must unite the theaters. This means punishing Iranian support for the war in Ukraine by launching retaliatory strikes against IRGC assets inside Iran. When Iran launched a massive drone and missile barrage recently, the U.S. celebrated the high interception rate as a victory. But this strategy advises Israeli leadership that defense is no substitute for deterrence. Victory requires striking the source. This theoretical paper has quickly become the logic of the current war. The arguments for hitting energy infrastructure and assassinating IRGC officials are no longer just concepts. They are the active parameters of regional combat. It's a reminder of how modern warfare begins. Long before the first missile leaves the silo, the groundwork is laid in white papers and policy briefs, determining the targets of future campaigns.